A university love story in London. The first thing Amina noticed about London was the cold. Not the ordinary cold of weather, but a deeper kind. The loneliness hidden beneath crowded streets, the silence between strangers on trains, the gray skies that seemed to stretch forever. When her plane landed at Heathrow Airport, she pressed her forehead against the window and watched raindrops slide slowly across the glass. Everything looked distant and unfamiliar. She held her small bag tightly as she stepped into the airport. Inside were only a few clothes, old family photographs, and a scholarship letter from University of London. That letter had changed her life. Back home, her mother sold vegetables in a dusty roadside market from sunrise until night. Money was always short. Electricity disappeared often. Sometimes there wasn't enough food for dinner. But Amina had always studied under candlelight, believing education could rescue her family from poverty. And now she was here. London, a city she had only seen in movies. Her student accommodation was tiny. The walls were thin, the heater barely worked, and the room smelled faintly of old books and damp wood. But to Amina, it felt like a palace because it represented opportunity. Still, reality arrived quickly. London was expensive. Every coin mattered. She worked evenings at a small cafe near campus, washing dishes and cleaning tables. Sometimes customers ignored her completely. Other times they spoke too quickly for her to understand. Every night, she returned exhausted. But she never complained, because she remembered her mother's words before leaving home. Pain passes. Opportunity does not. On her first day at university, rain poured heavily across the campus. Students moved confidently through the old buildings wearing expensive coats and laughing in groups. Amina walked alone. She wore the same dark blue coat she had owned for 4 years. The sleeves were slightly worn. Her shoes leaked water each time she stepped into puddles. Inside the lecture hall, she chose a seat near the back and quietly opened her notebook. Moments later, a tall young man entered the room surrounded by friends. Everyone seemed to know him. Some students waved excitedly. Others whispered his name. Daniel Carter, the son of one of London's wealthiest business families. He wore a black coat, expensive watch, and carried himself with effortless confidence. Amina lowered her eyes immediately. People like him existed in a completely different universe. During class, Professor Hill asked a difficult economic question about global inequality. The room fell silent. Then Amina slowly raised her hand. Her answer was intelligent, detailed, and thoughtful. The professor smiled with surprise. Excellent analysis. Several students turned to look at her, including Daniel. For the first time, he noticed the quiet girl sitting alone. After class, Amina hurried outside toward the library. The wind was strong, and as she searched through her bag for her student card, her papers suddenly flew everywhere across the wet pavement. Oh no! Students passed by without stopping, but someone crouched beside her. Looks like the wind hates economics, a voice joked softly. She looked up. Daniel. He handed her notebook back carefully. Thank you, she whispered. You're Amina, right? From Professor Hill's class. She nodded nervously. I'm Daniel. I know. He smiled slightly. That bad. A small laugh escaped her before she could stop it. For a moment, her nervousness disappeared. Days turned into weeks. Unexpectedly, Daniel kept appearing in her life. Sometimes he saved her a seat during lectures. Sometimes he asked her questions after class. One afternoon, he found her studying alone in the library, surrounded by books. You always study this hard. I have to. You're already top of the class. That's exactly why I have to continue. He sat across from her quietly. Daniel had never met anyone like Amina. Most people treated him differently after learning his family name. Some wanted connections. Others wanted money or status. But Amina treated him normally, sometimes even coldly. And strangely, he liked that. One evening after class, Daniel noticed Amina leaving campus wearing her cafe uniform beneath her coat. "You work here?" She looked embarrassed. "Yes." "What time do you finish?" "Usually midnight." "You study all day and work all night?" She shrugged. "Rent doesn't pay itself." Daniel watched silently as she tied her apron and disappeared into the cafe kitchen. For the first time in years, he felt ashamed of how easy his own life had been. Meanwhile, Daniel's world was far from perfect. His family lived in a massive mansion in Kensington filled with marble floors, expensive paintings, and servants. But it never felt warm. His father cared about success, image, and business deals. At dinner one night, his father asked sharply, "How are your finance courses?" "Fine." "You'll begin training at the company next summer." Daniel hesitated. "I'm not sure I want that." Silence filled the table. His father slowly lowered his fork. "What do you mean?" "I want to write." His father laughed coldly. "Writing is a hobby, not a future." Daniel clenched his jaw, but stayed silent. Inside, he felt trapped. At university, he pretended to be confident and carefree. But deep down, he feared becoming someone he never wanted to be. Amina became the only person with whom he could truly breathe. Late-night study sessions turned into long conversations. They spoke about childhood memories, fears, dreams, and loneliness. One evening they sat beside the Thames River watching city lights shimmer on the water. "When I was younger," Amina said softly, "I used to imagine London as magic. And now," she smiled sadly, "now I know every city is difficult if you're poor." Daniel looked at her carefully. "You know what I imagined when I was younger?" "What?" "That being rich would automatically make people happy." She laughed quietly. "And it doesn't." Their eyes met. Something changed in that moment. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but gently, like rain becoming sunlight. Winter arrived over London. Christmas lights covered the streets. The city glowed gold against the cold darkness. One afternoon, Daniel invited Amina to a university gala dinner. "I don't think I should go." "Why not?" She looked away. "I don't belong in places like that." "You belong anywhere you want." After hours of hesitation, she agreed. She spent nearly all her savings on a simple black dress. When she arrived at the ballroom, everything sparkled with luxury. Crystal chandeliers, elegant music, designer clothing. Amina immediately felt out of place. Then she overheard a group of wealthy students whispering nearby. "That's the scholarship girl Daniel hangs around with. Maybe he's doing charity work." Laughter followed. Amina's chest tightened painfully. Without speaking, she turned and walked quickly outside into the snow. "Amina!" Daniel chased after her. She stopped near the empty courtyard, tears filling her eyes. "I knew this was a mistake." "What happened?" "Your world and mine are different. I don't care about that. But everyone else does." Snowflakes fell softly around them. "You can return home to comfort," she continued shakily. "I return home wondering if my family can afford food." Daniel stepped closer. "You think money makes life simple? It makes survival easier." He stared at her for a long moment before speaking quietly. "Amina, when I'm with you, I feel like myself." She looked at him silently.
"No pretending.
"No pressure."
No expectations." His voice softened.
"I love you." The words hung in the freezing air between them. Amina's heart pounded painfully. No one had ever looked at her the way Daniel did. Not with pity, not with superiority, but with genuine love. Slowly, he touched her cold hands. "And beneath the falling London snow," she whispered, "I love you too." Their relationship deepened after that night. They explored bookstores together, cooked cheap meals in Amina's tiny apartment, studied until sunrise during exam season. Daniel even began writing stories again after years of hiding his dream. For the first time, both of them felt hopeful about the future. But happiness rarely comes without challenges. One evening, Daniel's Father discovered photos of them together online. "Who is this girl?" he demanded angrily. "Her name is Amina. She's poor." Daniel stared at him in disbelief. "So, she wants access to your life. You don't know her." "I know people." Daniel stood.
No.
"You know money." His father's face hardened. "If you continue this relationship, don't expect support from this family." Daniel left the mansion that night, and he never forgot the sound of the door closing behind him. At the same time, Amina received terrible news from home. Her mother had become seriously ill. Hospital bills were impossible to afford. Amina broke down crying in her apartment. Daniel held her as she whispered, "I can't lose her." Quietly, without telling anyone, Daniel sold several expensive watches his father had given him. When Amina discovered what he had done, she was shocked. "You shouldn't have done this." "I wanted to, but they were valuable." He smiled gently. "So are you." For the first time in her life, Amina understood what real love meant. Not gifts, not luxury, but sacrifice.
Partnership.
Choosing someone even when life becomes difficult. Months later, spring finally returned to London. Flowers bloomed around campus. Graduation day arrived. Students celebrated across the university, wearing black gowns and smiling proudly. Amina graduated at the top of her class. As she walked across the stage, applause filled the hall. In the audience sat her recovering mother beside Daniel. Both were crying. Later that evening, Daniel took Amina back to the bridge where they had once spoken about loneliness. But tonight felt different. The city no longer seemed cold. Daniel handed her a small wrapped box. Inside was a silver necklace shaped like an open book. "You once told me stories helped you survive," he said softly. She smiled through tears. "And you helped me live." Daniel took a nervous breath. "I've been accepted into a publishing program here in London." "That's incredible." And he continued, voice shaking slightly, "I want to build a future with you." Amina looked at the glowing city skyline. The same city that once frightened her. The same city where she arrived poor, lonely, and uncertain. Now it held love,
Hope.
dreams. She reached for his hand. "Yes." As the bells of London echoed softly through the evening air, they stood together beneath the golden lights of the city, not as a rich boy and a poor girl, but as two souls who had chosen each other against every obstacle. And their story was only beginning.